Are you interested in a new career, looking for specialized training and a high-paying job in computers, fashion, or healthcare? Well, a lot of people must be, because companies selling that dream, for-profit career colleges, are one of the fastest-growing areas in the field of education. As we first reported in January, it's a multi-billion-dollar business, with most of the revenues guaranteed by the federal government. And until recently, the industry was one of the darlings of Wall Street. Now it's under scrutiny, with one of the biggest players facing allegations that it deceived investors, the federal government, and students, who say they've been taught a very expensive lesson.
Not an artist? It doesn't matter anymore.
If you've ever watched daytime TV, you've probably seen one of Career Education Corporation's ads offering students a brand new life.
Ever think you could be part of this? With the right training, you can.
That one was for the Catherine Gibbs Schools, which were bought by Career Education Corporation in 1997 and make up just a small part of its scholastic empire.
At the NASDAQ, John Larson, Chairman and CEO.
A year ago, CEC was one of the hottest stocks on the NASDAQ exchange, with 5 years of record growth and $1 billion in annual revenue. It comes from nearly 100,000 students at 82 different campuses, offering programs in everything from computer animation to the culinary arts. Brooks College in Long Beach, California, offers training in fashion and design. But these Brooks graduates have a special nickname for their alma mater.
Crooks College.
Crooks College?
Yeah.
Why do you call it that?
Because they robbed us. Everything was a lie.
What was the biggest lie?
Job placement. 98%.
Job
placement.
Making how much money?
They said like
Starting 30,
yeah,
maybe,
like
or more.
30 a year or something like that starting.
Brooke Schoberg, Shanae Thurston, and Amanda Harris enrolled to study fashion merchandising after the school signed them up for tens of thousands of dollars in student loans and showed them videos like this one, promising to help them get jobs with companies like Giorgio Armani. Did Brooks College find any of you a job?
No.
No.
Did they make an attempt to find you a job?
No.
The school declined to comment, but we do know that all three women graduated near the top of their class, and when we spoke to them a year later, none had been able to find the kind of jobs they were supposedly trained for. Brooke was managing a telephone store, Amanda was unemployed, and Shanae was selling T-shirts, all of them heavily in debt to get a 2-year degree they now believe has little value.
The school has no credibility with the fashion industry whatsoever.
How much did you pay to go there, and how much did you borrow?
I'm in debt about $37, $38, somewhere around $1,000.
I'm $50,000 or more.
33, 34. I have no idea.
You think you were ripped off?
Definitely. I'm not happy about it at all.
Those aren't just the isolated gripes of a few disgruntled students. They're part of a chorus of complaints under investigation by the Justice Department, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and laid out in a number of lawsuits against CEC by former students, investors, and employees. The lawsuits and the ongoing investigations were cited by CEC as the reason for declining our request for an on-camera interview. But there were plenty of other people willing to talk on camera. Explain why you have sunglasses and a visor on.
I'm completely embarrassed that I ever worked at Brooks College or for CEC.
This young man and two of his former colleagues, Barry Ross and Eric Shannon, used to work at Brooks College. They say there were some dedicated teachers there, but that the administration was more interested in making money than educating students. What was your title?
Admissions representative.
Right, but we're really salespeople.
Selling
Selling the dream, basically.
Sell me the dream.
We're selling you that you're gonna have a 95% chance that you're gonna have a job paying $35,000, $40,000 a year by the time they're done in 18 months.
Is that true?
No, we later found out it's not true at all.
Yeah, it wasn't true at all.
According to this evaluation report from the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, only about 38% of Brooks students ever finish the program, and the average starting salary for all graduates is less than $11 an hour. The admission counselors told us they were expected to enroll 3 high school graduates a week, regardless of their ability to complete the coursework. And if they didn't meet those quotas, they were out of a job, which is what the man in the sunglasses says happened to him. They all say that pressure produced some very aggressive sales tactics.
So in that way, the job was a lot like a used car lot, because if I couldn't close you, my boss would come in, try to close you. If my boss couldn't close you, his boss would come in,
So if you were a warm body and you walked through that door, you were going to get the full workout.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, especially if you have $50.
Yeah.
That's the enrollment fee.
Well, you need three things. You need $50, a pulse, and you got to be able to sign your name. That's about it.
Do a government loan for them.
Right.
The government-backed student loans are crucial to the entire industry. In 2003, they made up nearly 60% of CEC's revenues. And in order to be eligible for that money, CEC is required to provide students with accurate information about job placement. Would CEC exist if it weren't for the government loan programs?
Well, I don't believe that they would be a billion-dollar company in 10 years if it weren't for the federal government loan programs.
Until she was fired a few months ago, Tammy Hansen was the national manager in charge of student placement for all of Career Education Corporation's campuses in the United States. She's one of more than 50 current or former employees we spoke with at more than a dozen schools, all of whom told us variations of the same story. What was the corporate culture like?
All about the numbers.
Getting
All about the
students in the
numbers.
seats.
Getting students enrolled, getting students in the seats, keeping students in the seats, getting them passed enough to graduate, and then trying to get them any job we could.
But getting students any job they could did not necessarily mean getting them jobs they were trained for. And she says a job placement could mean just about anything.
It may be that, they end up placing them folding T-shirts at the Gap as a fashion grad, which is fine, but not what they were promised in the beginning.
And a job they could have gotten without paying $15,000 or $30,000.
Actually, it's more like 30 to 60 to 80, depending on the program.
Hansen says the quality of education varies from school to school, and that there are some very good programs and highly motivated students who find successful careers. But she says too many students simply don't have the aptitude or the skills necessary to succeed in class or the workplace.
They were not prepared, but at the same time, the instructors were very pressured to pass them through that class to keep them in school.
So they could keep collecting the government
So they
money.
could keep the revenue.
CEC has denied these and other allegations in response to various lawsuits and says it's made compliance with government regulations and investigating complaints a top priority. Chairman John Larson wrote us saying, "We'll investigate the situation cited in your report and take appropriate corrective action as violations are identified." And it did not take us long to find a violation. To see how the admission process works, we sent 60 Minutes associate producer Jennifer McDonald with a hidden camera to a number of CEC schools in the New York area. At the Catherine Gibbs School, she began by asking about graduation rates.
How many people graduate?
I'd say about 89% graduated.
89% graduate?
Yes.
Not even close. According to the Department of Education's most recent figures from 2003, this school's graduation rate was 28.6%, not 89%, a difference of 60 points. Federal regulations require that prospective students be given the official statistics in writing prior to enrollment, and the admissions rep seemed ready to sign her up.
You came to this point where you want to give it a shot. Go the whole way, my opinion.
And when Jennifer wanted to know about a career in fashion, this is what he told her.
These jobs pay a lot of money. You're looking at, if you take this craft and be very, very serious about it, you could make anywhere from hundreds of thousands to, if you go up to be a designer.
But not everything at Career Education Corporation is fashion or business. Its Sanford Brown Institutes prepare students for careers in healthcare, training ultrasound and cardiovascular technicians, as well as medical and surgical assistants. The admission representative at Sanford Brown in New York told our associate producer that the school was highly selective. So Jennifer did everything she could to disqualify herself for admission to become a medical assistant, a 9-month program that costs almost $13,000 and prepares students for an entry-level position.
Like my GPA was not very good. It took me 5 years to get through high school. I was kind of a stoner in high school.
When lousy grades and revealing prior drug use weren't enough to get her rejected, she tried a different approach.
And I have a problem with blood, to be honest with you. Is that going to be a problem?
97% of our students have a problem with blood.
Okay, okay.
The first day of that module, they don't hand you a syringe and say, go for it.
Okay.
The school did require our associate producer to take an admission test.
So as long as I get 13 out of 50, I'm okay. I think I can do that, okay.
She intentionally flunked it, getting just 7 out of 50 questions correct. So the school allowed her to take another test with different questions. This time, the admission rep said she had doubled her score to 14 out of 50, and that was just good enough to qualify for admission.
No way.
I'm not kidding. Yes.
Although it was easy to get in, this counselor, in fact, all the counselors, told Jennifer that she would have to work hard and attend class to complete the course. But Tammy Hansen says what CEC is most interested in is the tuition.
They want to say that the student comes first, but I think it becomes very obvious to anybody that works at the school that the student does not come first.
Where does the student come?
The student comes with how many dollar signs are attached to them, and anything after that is secondary.
CEC isn't the only publicly traded career school operator in trouble with the federal government. Last fall, the Department of Education handed out its largest fine ever, $9.8 million, to the Apollo Group and its University of Phoenix for admitting unqualified students to boost enrollment. And a year ago, federal agents raided the headquarters and 10 campuses of ITT Educational Services, investigating charges of falsified grades and attendance records. Nick Glakus is president of the Career College Association, a Washington lobbying group that represents 1,100 career colleges in the United States.
This is not an industry-wide problem. And let me address the whole question of being under investigation. Allegations, from a legal standpoint, are not facts and are not evidence.
Glakus says career colleges are a passport into the middle class for millions of people, a gateway to the American dream.
25% of our students are working adults, 50% are minorities, 70% are the first in their family to go to college. This is an extraordinary success story.
Congresswoman Maxine Waters, who represents the poorest district in Los Angeles, isn't so sure. For the past 15 years, she's been the industry's most persistent critic.
I have seen young person after young person who simply wanted to get trained for a trade or for a job get ripped off.
Why hasn't anything been done?
Well, you know, these private post-secondary schools are very sophisticated in its politics, and they actually have members of Congress who protect them.
Over the past 2 years, career colleges and lending institutions that benefit from government-backed student loans handed out more than $1 million in campaign contributions to members of the House Education Committee. Half of that money went to the committee's 2 ranking members, Chairman John Boehner of Ohio and Buck McKeon of California. Both declined our requests for interviews. As for the sales reps we spoke with, Barry Ross has filed a discrimination lawsuit against CEC. Eric Shannon now works in finance, and the young man in the sunglasses is selling cars. And the Brooks College graduates, they feel betrayed. They say they were sold the idea that an investment in education would change their lives. This investment did, but not in the way they were promised.
My mother told me to declare bankruptcy, and I'm only 21.
We're all students that did everything we were supposed to, gave it our all, and we're still jobless. You know, like it doesn't make sense.
After our report, and as a result of this story, the House Committee on Education held a hearing on alleged abuses in the for-profit industry. As for CEC, in May, 62% of the company's shareholders withheld their support of the company's leadership.